I'll just do a dub. I'll dub in your voice.
I'm Josh. All right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PC Perspective Podcast. We have reached episode 758. This is being recorded on January 31st, 2024. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
You know, I'm really proud. MSI really stepped up for us, and they sent me the 4080 Super Expert. And, you know, I saw it come in and it brought tears to my eyes because, I mean, how beautiful is this? Look at that. Look at that finish. It's unique. And it's got super pipes. So it's really super.
Super.
Why does it say
Oh, and I'm Josh
GTX? Sorry, I stepped all over you. Why does it say GTX on it instead of RTX?
I don't
understand.
Yeah, 480G.
It's a misprint. It's worth more.
Yes.
And Josh took all the extra time we had for this segment, so I'm just going to be Brett Van Smernberg tonight. Thank you very much.
Great. This is gold. I'm glad we record this every week.
Oh.
So that I have to watch it again later.
It is.
And again,
it is part of it.
And again.
Yeah.
By the way,
You have served your penance.
we are a
better
YouTube channel and website called PC Perspective, and we have a Patreon page that we'd love to tell you about so that you can shower us with money. So we can stay in business and keep doing this. And that's patreon.com/PCPer. So put your name in lights, put your name here, and become famous, internet famous for a minute or two. And or just do it every week so that you'll be famous every week for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. It's time to move to our Food with Josh segment. Take it away.
You know, I'm only going to be here for like 5 more years, and then I'm probably just going to die because my arteries have hardened to the place where, you know, I have a heartbeat and my blood pressure goes up to 250 over 175, and the blood just, you know, shoots through my veins. But anyway, I had another terrible burger today. It was special, and it was terrible because, yeah, it took a year off my life. It's the Groundhog. It's a double bacon burger blend. So what it is 50% hamburger and then 50% bacon, and they mix that together and they make patties out of it. And then if that's not enough,
bacon on it.
Yeah, they first put a little American cheese on there, some pickles because it needs some acid, candied bacon, not just regular bacon, but candied bacon. And finally, the coup de grace, they put their PB&J chicken wing sauce on there, which shockingly, it's really fantastic. The whole meal just comes together. And I tried their new spicy fries, which is essentially fries tossed in their Nashville hot seasoning. So today was a special day. It's one I'll remember for the rest of my life, which again is probably going to be about 45 more minutes. I joke now, but you'll see my obituary and you'll feel bad because you know what? Maybe he should have had a few less burgers.
Our top story this week is yet another super graphics card launch from NVIDIA. It's the GeForce RTX 4080 Super, and we had the Founders Edition card for our review. NVIDIA changed the embargo date so that all reviews went up together instead of Founders yesterday and partner cards today, like overclock models today. It was just everything. So there's thousands of reviews out there for you to enjoy, and so many cards. And we just have the Founders Edition, just a plain old Founders Edition card. And let's just cut to the chase. This card is very slightly faster than the original 4080. A few more CUDA cores in there. It went from 9728 up to 10,240. Faster memory, more memory bandwidth as a result. You have more tensor cores, so maybe a little bit better ray tracing performance, higher clocks, 45 megahertz higher on the boost clock out of the box. And I mean, that memory data rate, we've never seen 23 gigabit per second GDDR6X before. It's unprecedented.
Okay.
But I kind of have a working theory about this now. The dust has settled, and it's been a couple days since I tested it. That total graphics power rating of 320 watts, I feel like it might be holding this card back because that's the same power limits of the original 4080. I don't know. I'll have to do some experimentation.
Hey, I did. I just retweeted something, and I can get you that. The 4080 Super FE versus 4080 FE had 2 fewer core phases, power phases, and 1 fewer VRAM phase.
The Super had fewer?
Yes.
What? Okay.
Let me link that. They have photographic evidence. At least I think so. But yeah, it's. I mean, how do you cut $200 off? Well, you remove 3 phases. Apparently.
Apparently, that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, so it probably cannot deliver power as cleanly to that core, even though it's a little bit boosted up there. And I kind of wonder if that just is handicapping it. It'd be interesting to see if somebody was to do like EVGA used to do with the Kingpin to really maximize it out. But as we well know, Kingpin is gone the way of the dodo with EVGA. Who knows if he will partner with somebody else? Probably, maybe someday. But yeah, it's been a year and 4 months since EVGA updated their Precision X software.
Sad state.
Yes. When you don't sell graphics cards anymore, I guess it's not really worth it to update your graphics card overclocking software. No. So getting back to this Super review, which, obviously is compelling content. Let's scroll down. The card, like the other Founders Edition card, the 4070 Super that we saw, is hard to photograph without excellent lighting because it's just jet black. It is night black. It's a matte finish. That's it. That's the only difference between it and the original. Here they are side by side. The lighter colored one is the original, and the darker colored one is the Super. So looking at the only charts that matter, obviously 3D Mark, where you're going to get your best theoretical performance numbers. And here in Speedway, the card was 5% faster than the original 4080. And that was the best showing that we will see today. 3% faster in times by extreme. That's just the rasterized test, no DXR. Cyberpunk, a whole 1.4% faster than the original. And that was with, extremely careful retesting, by the way. When I first ran the test, they were tied effectively. It's like, there's no way this is a tie. So I ran it again, made sure all my processes were correct in the background. Everything was ready to go. I double checked my CPU cooler installation, made sure that wasn't ajar, wasn't causing some CPU throttling. And then I ran it again, and all of my efforts paid off because I got an entire frame per second boost. And that's the average of 3 runs. I consistently was underperforming with this card originally.
You can't say that you aren't dedicated to your craft.
I am dedicated because when I was upstairs making these charts, and one was at 97.5 and the other one was at 97.5, I'm like, this just looks like I copied and pasted the same result. So I need to go retest this and make sure. Sure enough, I was wrong. Anyway, Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition. It's, let's see, 3% faster.
3%,
that's a DXR title. Far Cry 6. Look at this. That is a 0.6% advantage for the Super.
That's an Excel rounding error is what that is.
It's consistent. It's repeatable. And basically the same story. Even with DLSS and frame generation, it's still the same. It's still like a 3% difference. So just as Gamers Nexus said in Steve's video this morning, 1 to 3%. And I had just written all of my stuff up and published it. And I said, yes, 1 to 3. That's correct. We're in complete agreement, 1 to 3%. And here's the power draw for this card. which under load, this is a Speedway run, averaged 315.2 watts. So right around the same average of the original in my testing, but I was testing with PCAT this time. I guess the original launch review, I was still using GPU-Z for power logging, but there were more than 100 data points over 330 watts. And then there were another 32 data points over 350 watts, including 10 over 360, spiking all the way up to 368.1 watts in this single 3D Mark Speedway run. So it was consuming some power. I have not retested the original Founders Edition card using PCAT pass-through hardware to know if that's normal behavior for the original one or not. But that's it.
So what power supply are you using with this?
A Be Quiet Dark Power Pro
11?
Dark Power Pro, either 1300 watt or 1500 watt. I don't remember.
And does it have the native 12-volt high power, or
Yes.
is it a...
Yes.
Okay.
They had sent me an updated one with the native 12-volt high power. So
Oh, nice.
I just have that one cable coming off of the power supply, which you can just barely not see. Here it is.
Yeah.
Don't taunt the 12-volt high power.
No, I'm putting too much stress on the connector on the top of the GPU, actually.
Yeah, please stop that.
I will stop it immediately. So there you have it. The 4080 Super, it is only 1 to 3% faster than the original, 5% if you count 3D Mark Speedway. And it's 17% less expensive.
Literally, that's the entire review right there.
That is. It's 17%, 16.7% less expensive. But I mean, that's the entire story.
What a value!
As I said in the review, top YouTubers are already out there with their pensive, disapproving, disappointed, or pseudo-angry face thumbnails just killing the low single-digit increases with the 4080 Super over its non-Super predecessor. But to me, this launch is all about the Benjamins. All two of them, as a matter of fact. So here I linked to the IMDb page for All About the Benjamins.
And there was nobody named Benjamin in the actual production itself, so...
Well, Benjamins, Josh, are $100 bills.
What?
We're not familiar
Because
with
Benjamin
that.
Franklin's portrait is on the
200.
$100 United States currency. So,
Well, you know, you can give me you can make our podcast have a scally face. I can do that for us because I can get on a platform and discuss the last 4 years ad nauseum about the graphics department. It seems that, you know, with the RTX 2000 series, things were still somewhat normal in pricing. Yes, it all shifted up a little higher, but we all know what happened to the 3000 series. They shifted it up a little bit higher, and then you could never buy it at that price. And so you can get a RTX 3080 for about $1,000, and NVIDIA and its partners really enjoyed that. They thought it was great. So yeah, the 4080 initial $1,200 because, you know, as Steve likes to say, bigger number, better. And in this case, you know, it is better. It's faster card, more feature packed. But yeah, $1,200 was always a sore spot with a lot of people. And there are people who bought the card unhappily or happily. I don't know. I mean, how much do you like your money? Some people don't care as much, and they just want a card that they don't have to pay $1,600 for, which was the 4090, which again, the only card in this entire group that is kind of selling for what it's worth, because the performance on that puppy is just astronomical as compared to everything else. But yeah, it was disappointing. And then we got the Super launch, and they did, to their credit, drop everything kind of back down to closer to where consumers really wanted it. But we've kind of got a 1-2 punch in this economy. And even though I don't want to go into politics, because, you know, any single president doesn't have a huge amount to do. But anyway, the credit card debt of the American people and, other areas is just out of control. It's higher than really it has ever been. And we just don't have as much money available to us because everything else just costs more. So it's nice that they can get product moving for themselves and their partners by lowering the price, giving us a little bit more performance, And, we'll talk about like the 4070 Super Ti probably next week again, as I have a card here that I'm wanting to go through. But yeah, it's a little too late, and macroeconomic issues are probably going to impact. But having said that, RTX 4080 Supers are sold out pretty much everywhere. You can only get combos now from Newegg and other providers. So they're actually selling. I'll be interested to hear actual numbers. Even though they won't be given, we will kind of hear rumors of how much has actually been shipped. I'm off the soapbox now.
You had mentioned availability. I did look earlier, and yeah, it's down to just bundles. Some in-store availability at my local Micro Center anyway, but nothing.
Did you compare pricing to 4080?
Not yet, but the 4080s are going to be more expensive right now. 4080s are more expensive.
Yeah.
And the 4080 Super is sold out. So there was a listing at Best Buy that's sold out. Again, like Josh said, Newegg is sold out except for bundles. There was a couple of bundles still.
My favorite one is that at Amazon, there is still one 4080 Super Gaming OC left. It is $2,750.
That's Canadian, though.
Or roughly $1,000 more than an available 4080 non-super. Like, I don't think it really got launched up here.
Well, in one positive trend, at least you can get a RX 7800 XT for less than $500 now. I think we've seen them for $489 and a few dollars less. So it's an option.
Okay, so when I search on Newegg now, it's actually showing me back orders. Earlier, it was only showing me bundles. So you can get a Zotac Gaming for $999.99 back ordered. And I think that's it. And that goes into
There's the bundles.
Out of stock. That's
Out of
why.
stock.
Oh, well.
People bought all the bundles. Helping move some CPU inventory, it looks like. Man. I'm guessing there were not a ton of these available at launch.
No.
So
I don't think 100
to,
million people went out and bought them.
reviewers. All the reviewers.
There were so many reviews. I mean, there aren't enough cards to go around.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like the 4070 Ti Super has been plenty of stock, though, which is interesting, because that was the one that we had heard rumors that probably that would have the least amount of stock. The 4080 Super would have the second least amount of stock, and then the 4070 Super would be, that kind of the sweet spot, and there should be plenty of product out there, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
It's time for AMD fourth quarter and yearly 2023 financials. We're about to hear Josh explain, break down.
Because unlike some other companies, they actually believe in real time.
They also believe in ending their fiscal year at the end of the year. Weird.
Hey, isn't NVIDIA on 2025 already?
Yes.
I'm not joking. They were literally on 2025.
No, you're not.
It all had to do when they did the IPO and how they're doing the accounting, and it just all got whacked.
Yeah.
But yeah, AMD, they had another good quarter, and they had another good year. And this is good for them because, we're kind of out of the COVID time, and now we're in the AI time. And for, the fourth quarter 2023, they made $6.2 billion, which is 10% more year over year. A good year. Their data center revenue is now really, really pushing the company. It's increased over 38% year over year. It's $2.3 billion. Their client revenue, which includes, their Ryzen stuff, $1.5 billion, which, if you think about it, way back in the day, 4 years ago, they were having a hard time hitting $1.5 to $1.7 billion per quarter. And now that's just one aspect of their entire thing. Gaming revenue, $1.4 billion, so it's down a little bit. And they're embedded, which, is they spent a lot of money with Z-Links. It's down $1.1 billion as well. But the things that really stand out is their MI300 series accounted for some $400 million in that quarter. And I'll tell you what, they weren't shipping all that long in that quarter, and they made 400 billion. They're expecting around 3.2 billion just from the GPU stuff alone by sometime next year, not this next quarter. They did expect the ramp to 1 billion per quarter of these products pretty quickly. And yeah, they think their top end for this next year is about 3.2. So that's some significant money coming their way. And it's all in AI. I don't know if it's sustainable, but there is a distinct and definite need for compute. And they're doing more things with their GPUs. Their ROCm and their framework is getting up there to where, you know, they can provide services comparable to what NVIDIA has with CUDA. And that's huge for them because software makes the world go round. And if you don't have any software to run on your nice, shiny hardware, it doesn't matter how nice that hardware is because it's not going to be running. But yeah, gross margins up to 47%. Again, when things were really bad, they were hitting in the low 30s. So this is massive for them, and then they continue to improve upon that. So, you know, another 4 points up year over year, going from 43 to 47. That's, again, quality stuff from them. And they don't have their own manufacturing. They have to wait for TSMC to open up stuff for them from, you know, Intel and Apple and NVIDIA and all these other premier partners that they have to, you know, try to negotiate some wafer starts with. Of course, you know, wafer starts are still a little down this year, but it is something to consider. Fiscal year 23, $22.7 billion. This is just huge again from them. And you can do the math. And when you see that back in the day, they were making 1 billion, 1.2 billion in Q1, Q2, and up to 1.5 to 1.7 in Q4 with, you know, demand and everything was at the highest. They're looking at, you know, yearly revenues of $6 billion. And now they're almost 4 times that, which is just huge for the company. Lisa Su certainly took over at a good time and has led them into the promised land. They're doing well. Their overall quarterly revenue was something like 800 million, I think, 800, 900. I don't have the exact number right in front of me. But again, historically, this is a very, very good quarter and result for AMD, especially when there's, you know, still some weakness going on, especially in gaming. I guess console sales look like they're going to be kind of grim this next year because the revenue is going to go down. They're expecting Q1 revenue to, again, be a little bit down, but still seasonally quite strong for them. So their stock's taking a little bit of a beating. But I think as the year goes on, things will kind of improve there. So yeah, AMD, they're not the little has-been that they once were. They're now right front and center, one of the top 3 compute manufacturers in the world. So, anything you guys want to add?
I'm happy.
Bigger numbers, better.
Exactly.
Huh?
Well, I mean, their client revenue was still really good. I mean, their 7,000 series CPUs are really starting to sell very well. I mean, it had a rocky start with those, and they, you know, weren't comparing well to the previous 5,000 series, but now they're selling very well as compared to, especially in retail against Intel. OEM stuff, they still are going to be behind, and especially in mobile. Mobile is AMD's weakness, and that's, you know, one area that Intel just is ruling the roost.
Well, we had almost
retail desktop.
What
where you
about their
couldn't
new
get
upcoming
a main brand
G-Parts?
laptop with a Ryzen processor in it.
Yep.
Right. It was a good 10 years. You're seeing them now, but it's very small. But it's growing.
Yeah.
And as usual, Epic, that's where they do it. People love their Epics.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that they're just really well designed and they run great. And, for a while there, Intel really opened the door by not being able to provide Xeons. And so the Dells and the HP of the world started to really push the AMD stuff, because instead of waiting 8 to 16 weeks for an Intel-based server, you can get an AMD one right away. And people started making that jump, and they're like, you know what, this isn't that bad. And in fact, when the later stuff came out, it was so much better than what Intel had in terms of performance and power and cost and availability and all of these wonderful things that, their data center revenue is a prime mover every corner now.
And AMD wasn't the Baskin Robbins of server SKUs.
No.
I mean, they didn't quite have 100 SKUs, but it was damn close.
Yeah, they did this last. They're starting to get up there in SKUs, which yeah.
Okay, moving on. Microsoft Teams has a bit of a wobble. Oh no, Teams! Everybody relies on this for work. It's 2024.
Hey, if I can't see the color of the dot of the person that I want to email, I can't work. I need to know whether they're busy or unavailable or. But yeah, it fell down hard Friday. And they honestly didn't really get it back up and running until Sunday. So, well, you'd think that most people would be like, oh, hey, it's Friday. That sucks. Let's just call it a day early. I can't meet with my clients. No, that's the exact opposite of what users do. They panic, they scream, they yell. And all you can do is look at them and say, yeah, Microsoft is down. Well, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. Should I put in a resume to Microsoft and leave you guys here? They screwed up their database. So the best part was that even if it was working, messages sort of just disappeared, or you joined a meeting and everything was perfect, but it's like, no, sorry, you've been put in the waiting room. And it went on and on and on. It took them a long time to fix this. And there were rumors that there were issues again on Monday in North America. I couldn't actually find any because, I support Teams. And I've got a lot to say about the MSIX installer that they've come up with nowadays for it. But yeah, if the Teams died on you, that's why. Because it died for everyone.
Next, Edge is taking over Chrome yet again. What does this mean? I mean, aren't they the same thing, really, except that Edge has all those helpful AI assistant features built right in?
Maybe you've never heard about how many companies care about their logos and which logo is out front. You probably didn't realize it.
Yeah.
What, they don't like the fact that you're using an old Internet Explorer 6 icon here?
Yeah, but it just
Only
still
for
says
financials.
IE to everybody. It still says IE to everybody, I think.
What browser did they buy? Was it Spyglass? Is that the name of it? Is that what became IE? Or am I thinking of Safari?
I think it is.
I think you're right on that.
Right.
That's an ancient memory.
It's worth looking up. It's worth killing time on the podcast. Spyglass Incorporated, 1990. They had the Mosaic web browser. That's right.
An internet software company.
Microsoft licensed Spyglass in 1995, according to Wikipedia. It's subject to change for $2 million. That's like $2 billion today.
Modified it. Okay, we got to edit that. It's not modified. They broke it and renamed it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Wait, you're going to move towards internet standards? Yeah, we're not going to stand for that sort of thing over here.
Yeah.
We're going to make up our own. But yeah, long story short, with the Edge thing, it always prompts you, hey, you could try using Edge. And so what a couple of people noticed is that, they did a reboot with Chrome open and a bunch of their tabs because, are you really using your computer if you have less than 50 tabs open? And upon reboot, Edge was open with all of their Chrome tabs.
Pardon?
Yeah. Because Edge likes to be helpful, and so it syncs everything you do with your other browsers to make sure that if you ever do switch to Edge because you've, suffered massive brain injury, it will be ready for you. And instead of asking at this point, it just does. This is, of course, being said that it was a bug. Sorry, we were being a little bit overly intrusive. And essentially, it just means they got caught doing this again, and they'll just hope everyone forgets until the next time.
When you start up Edge, the first time, it asks you to, transfer over all your
Yes.
data and to and
Internet history.
you
yes.
can
Your
say
precious bodily
no
fluids.
to that. We do not want to share my data with Edge, and that's what I always do. So yeah, I never had to luckily have this issue.
Well,
But
guess
yeah,
what,
if you go
Josh?
through their so helpful, wizards to migrate over things to Edge, and yeah, just don't
Yeah.
do it.
This is the people that said no.
Really,
These are the people who literally clicked no, do not ever sync with Edge. And
and it
on a
did.
reboot, oh my lord, Edge has all my Chrome tabs open. How odd.
Josh, can you shorten the discussion on the move to angstrom measurements?
Just make it a little
sure kind of
smaller.
can. Yeah, I mean the register had a nice little thing talking about, what's coming up. Right now, TSMC is in the middle of 5 nanometer production. They're starting 4 nanometer stuff. They're working on 3 nanometer, and they're of course going to 2 nanometer. Now, Intel calls those things different things now. Their 10 nanometer became 7. Their 7 became 4, and their 4 became 20 or something like that. But yeah, it's not great. I mean, it's all marketing terms now, and they're all getting there, but they have to do different things to get there effectively. Like, for instance, Samsung is going to be releasing a 3 nanometer process, but they're going to be using gate all around GAA, which is a different way of doing FinFETs, which is necessary to get the needed performance and power efficiency and connectivity, electrical connectivity, and as little electron tunneling, as possible through these things. And Intel's going to be adding that, I believe, to their 20 angstrom. It gets confusing, and again, it is all marketing terms, but it's a race to get to the smallest, fastest, without destroying these super large and complex chips that will eventually be produced on them. So it's a really interesting kind of article that talks about where it has been, where it's going, how the marketing terms have changed, a little bit on the actual performance, and what each individual manufacturer is doing to try to make their individual processes more successful than the others. And you could argue that Moore's law died in around 2006 to 2010. If you really kind of take things mathematically and look at that, but they've done a lot of things to kind of get around that. I mean, one of the biggest things, of course, is chiplets and 3D stacking. And FinFETs have done more as well to kind of keep that rolling. But we're still eventually it's slowing down, and it's getting harder, and it's getting much more expensive. Building a fab, I can't remember, it was some guy who said, well, I'm raising money and we're going to build fabs here in America, and we've got, some $40 billion set aside, and that's going to get you like half a fab anymore, and maybe some of the equipment for it. It's just insane how much these things cost, and how much it costs just to convert older lines to the new stuff. And I think they took apart ASML's one of their high NA things, and one component of it had 40,000 parts, and that wasn't the whole thing. And I'm reminded of the German Tiger II tank, which had something like 1.5 million parts, and it was a horrible thing to maintain in the field, even though it was a really great tank. Yeah, it's just getting insane, and maybe this is why graphics cards and any ICs are just so expensive now, because it's $24,000 to $26,000 per wafer to finish one. And you can do the math if you do area on a 12-inch wafer and how large these chips are. You can get a good idea of how much it
But the
costs.
angstroms, is it just silliness?
It's silly. It's marketing.
So you're saying that this is the one instance where bigger numbers are not actually better.
Exactly.
Oh,
Let's just
20
go back
is
to 90
bigger.
nanometers. It was a great process. It had plenty of good graphics cards. Just go back.
No, but we went down to
I'm sure you can still
65,
find it in your
Josh.
car.
Hey, remember when
true.
architecture meant like the nodes would get smaller and then they would consume less power and we'd have more efficient products that also had better performance, 65 nanometer stuff and then 40 nanometer stuff. And yeah, what happened?
Remember when like the Intel i7 6800, was it an XTX? I can't remember. Z, whatever. Yeah, that was one of their last like 65 watt parts, and then everything after that exploded. 7700 was higher, and then 9000 much higher, and now we're at the 14 where you can consume 300 watts plus at the CPU.
You know, even bone stock, if you are operating a Core i5 from a recent generation, like the 13th gen, those consume 181 watts. That's the stock PL2. Now, out of the box, there's no power limit at all in most motherboards. But if you are manually power limiting that thing, it's still 181 watts for a Core i5 that has a rated TDP of 125. So, I mean, if you want it to boost and hit its potential, it's got to go to at least 181, which is, 100 watts more than the 7000 series stuff. Like a Core i5 7600 was not pulling more than, I don't think it was pulling more than 95 watts. It wasn't that long ago. Why are things not getting any more efficient? This is obviously Intel's problem, is that they had to keep on increasing power consumption to give you better performance on virtually the same architecture over and over and over again.
And because they've then done that, and the power supply people have been able to support that, then all the competition say, hey, the top is off. We can go ahead and really hammer on these things, because all of the infrastructure needed to get these higher speeds, higher TDPs, Intel had to do that and work with all the partners to be able to get there. And now we have 600 watt graphics cards and 300 watt CPUs.
It's time for Security Corner, or In Security Corner as it's now known, because of course that's all we ever talk about is security problems. Here's a story. Sorry, Linux users, glibc 2.37 and 2.36 have a serious vulnerability.
That's glibc, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, I always pronounce all of these acronyms wrong.
And the
I
funniest thing is that 2.36 didn't have this vulnerability until they patched a different one.
Oops.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is RCE or not, or whether there's
It's remote
I guess
root.
there's so many things. There's basically almost everything, especially in the GNU library, is going to pick up glibc, and all the Linuxes are using glibc. So practically every executable is pulling this in. I can't think of one that maybe doesn't. So,
and it's a buffer overflow that gives a remote user root on your devices. So nothing to worry about at all.
And it's chainable. It's part of a party of, it's having a whoop, whoop, raise the roof kind of party thing going on, with a whole series of vulnerabilities that are akin to this one that were discovered by Qualys. And it's kind of a nasty thing. I don't know if there's any other mitigation other than upgrading to the very latest glibc 238, depending on what distro you're on. My understanding is that Ubuntu is affected. Oh, here we go. Fedora, Debian. So a lot of the main popular distros. I didn't see CentOS on here, so
no, nor did I. But I'm assuming
maybe
it's not like they use a different one.
Yeah, it depends on who their upstream is, really. But
yeah. And besides, your long-term service branch at that point, so you're probably actually running a really old glibc,
which is probably not vulnerable.
Which is probably not vulnerable.
If you're on CentOS 7 LTS, you're probably okay. No, I don't take my word for that. You probably should still patch. But seriously,
Next,
yeah, the government's. Go ahead.
The CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, says that vendors must secure Soho routers against Volt Typhoon attacks.
And that is the sound of Netgear responding. That silence you just heard.
It wasn't just Netgear. It was also the Cisco RV320, a company called Draytech Vigor routers, and I've never heard of them. No. I don't know if you've heard of them, Draytech.
No,
and
I have no idea.
IP cameras. This was found by a company called Black Lotus Labs, and it was determined that there's a lot more attacks against the edge network out there. This is just one of them. And the reference to the CISA that Sebastian was talking about a minute ago is the U.S. government absolutely begging vendors to patch this stuff and to get just a little bit better at making the firmware and having a little bit better eye towards security, especially when it comes to vulnerabilities like this, which I think attacks weak password security on remote management ports or remote management possibilities using specially crafted access URLs or API access. It's a shame. One of the next stories talks about that. I don't believe there's a patch for this yet, by the way, for all the and what you were talking about, Jeremy, which was the Netgear ProSafe firewalls, which I think are rather popular. You definitely want to, if you have a vendor that has sold you the Netgear ProSafe firewall, definitely reach out to them about this and ask them what their mitigation scenario is, or is, as Jeremy implied just a minute ago, their response has been, I'm sorry,
they're targeting end-of-life devices. They're literally targeting devices that are no longer supported, but are still out there in vast numbers.
Yeah, and they have fairly weak remote management or potential to be remotely managed exploitable APIs. There's your problem.
Yeah.
And again, the government is begging, please get better at this.
Yeah, well, obviously they're not frickin' helping.
Oh, here's maybe the reason why.
Yeah, this is why.
Final security story is from the Register. Wait, security courses aren't a requirement to graduate with a computer science degree? And software makers, they're okay with this, right?
Yes.
Well, let's set the Wayback Machine for 2019 when maybe the security situation that we're dealing with today, which is practically as we deal with, and we don't necessarily make fun of it, although sometimes we do a little bit, but every week we've got 2, 3, 4, and I let go some of them. There's so many of them that are out there that are popping off on a security vulnerability or some risky behavior by another company or an exfiltration of 1 billion records from Facebook or whatever, at some online vendor.
What's a couple of terabytes between hackers?
Exactly. I mean, it all comes back to probably this problem right here. But again, set the Wayback Machine for 2019 when maybe this stuff wasn't as prevalent. 23 of the top 24 computer science universities in America were not focusing in on enforcing or highly advocating part of your CS degree, computer science degree, was going to be paying attention to security designed in, built-in security, built right into the software architecture. Go ahead, Jeremy.
And didn't a government agency we just reference plea that everyone would start doing this at university? And guess what happened?
CISA. Nothing.
SFA. Nothing.
Nothing.
Of the 24 universities they looked at, 23 of them, you do not need any sort of cybersecurity training to get a CSI or a computer science degree.
No InfoSec.
What? I mean, you should be teaching your 4-year-old this at this point.
It's it's the problem here they're pointing at is a pull through problem, and that's industry is not pulling through, saying, hey, when we hire these people, when we hire the CS people, when we hire the systems architects or the system developers or the firmware developers for these routers that we're constantly finding have problems, or these online services as service providers, we're seeing this all over the place. Whether you're building Facebook or you're just building a web app for the a tire store chain, security needs to be built in from the ground up. And if you're not teaching it, then the software developers just don't do it. But then again, industry isn't demanding it. And this is the government attempting to say, for God's sakes, please figure this out, because it's not only embarrassing, but it is highly damaging to corporate security and our national security. And that's not
Taylor Swift is disappointed.
Indeed.
Not that one, the important one.
Let's move to gaming quick hits, and the first story, Space Cadets should check out Nebulous Fleet Command. I'm sure Jeremy added this, yes, because it's rock, paper, shotgun.
Well, and I've played it, or at least I played a little bit of it. You remember Jane's combat simulations? When you were expected to fly a plane, but like properly fly it and deal with all of the electronics that were going on? So that's what this is, except sort of homeworldish. Anyone that's on the audio version, you're going to have to look up the screenshots. Anyone who's watching the video can see what the heck is going on here. So when you take hits, they are not, oh, your armor is dropped from 100 to 92. No, it's each and every individual part of your ship is armored. When it takes hits, it starts getting penetrated. It will go through to the subsystems underneath it, which are also specifically located in the ship model. So you end up doing a lot of rolling and quickly diving or changing heading in the hopes of surviving it. But one of the crazy things about this, and the one that I never really kind of got through, was that a lot of the missiles are guided. But by that, I mean, what part of the tutorial, there is a ship that your command knows is hidden behind an asteroid. You can't see it, but you send a missile that is dumb at the beginning but smart at the end through a series of waypoints to get all the way around the asteroid to then trigger and attack it from the rear end, assuming it gets through the point defense or the defense missiles that it could possibly launch. It's very, very complicated, but not obscenely so once you get used to it. I was more having trouble with the 3D interface because you need to spin around on all three axes to know exactly where that waypoint was. Homeworld was a little more forgiving when you, oh, wait a second, that was a little bit too far that way. It's neat. It's about $30. It's still in early access, and they're still working on the campaign, but it's gone a long way. I needed to go back to it because, you know, some other things came up, like Life and Baldur's Gate and that. So I haven't gone back to it, but it was really neat, and it looks like they're putting a huge amount of work into it. So, hey, I'd almost completely forgotten about it. It was nice to be reminded that I should get back to it and give it a shot if you're into that sort of thing.
So that takes me back a little bit to
don't it?
Well, not only that, but talking about the Janes, I remember getting Apache longbow, and the very first mission is you've got the instructor, and you're flying around, and he's talking about, and up forward is the IHAD system, and it's like 15 minutes of honest to God, actual, real instruction on how to fly an actual Apache and utilize some of the forward-looking infrared and all the other systems to get it to work. And that was back in 1998, 99. It was a great looking title and super complex, and I never really got past the introduction.
That's the thing, you know, best of intentions, but and the manual on the damn thing was an inch thick.
Yeah.
No, but they were something else.
Next story from Game Informer. This is, what game is this? Judas.
It's an upcoming game called Judas, but the story here is one of maybe a little bit personal interest for my own. It's from Ghost Story Games, a gaming studio that seemingly didn't lay off anybody this week or this month, which is odd because
that's nice.
Yeah, weird that they actually, I think,
I just need to know
employment.
Does it involve Rob Halford at all?
Not as far as I know.
That's too bad.
I don't know. But the cool thing about this is if you enjoy BioShock, and the BioShock kind of has a long legacy going back all the way to Thief, if anybody remembers that game. That gaming studio built that going all the way forward. I think it was Night Dive. Anyway, the original creator of BioShock, Ken Levine, is involved with Ghost Story Games and this upcoming Judas game, which is a lot BioShock is BioShock-like in many ways. And I like that sort of open-ended, kind of develop your character, hack the world. And it's a little bit off the wall gameplay and the way that you interact with things. I think it's going to be a pretty cool thing. So I am looking forward to Judas. Keep an eye on that if you like the BioShock play style.
Let's move to the reviews portion of tonight's podcast, where Jeremy will tell us of his experiences with another Fosi product.
Fosi is going a little bigger than they have. Up until now, they have been dead simple. Like when they first came out, you got a volume knob and a treble knob and a bass knob, and that was it. They then sort of moved on to realizing that you've probably got an annoying person that comes over and just likes to play with them, and really all you need is a volume knob. So with the XA3, what they've done, or sorry, the ZA3, is produce something which actually has 5 different op amps in it. Because not only does it have the left and right channel, as is normal, they've included XLR inputs on the back and a sub out. So now your left and right channels on your RCA, your left and right channels on the XLR, which are balanced, by the way, and the sub out all have their own op amps on them, which some of which you can replace if you do feel like taking it apart. It got significantly larger, mostly because of those XLRs. And, the other thing, because you can't just leave it at that, on the front, if it'll focus here, is not only the jack on the left side of your screen switches between RCA and our XLR inputs. The right hand does mono or stereo, because you can actually disable all but one of the op amps on this and turn it into a mono block. Or, as Fosi sent me 2 of these, you can set up 2 mono blocks, one for your left channel and one for your right channel. You won't be able to have your sub out.
What they intended? Could that be why they sent you 2?
No. Because I was wondering if they made a mistake and they were a little bit, smug about it. And then I suddenly realized, okay, so this is what they've done. So inside, apart from that sub and the XLR ends, it's pretty much the same as the last one I did, the Fosi V3. It's very much of a monitor. It's not overly warm. It's fairly neutral. And as you can see in that picture, significantly larger than the previous versions. She's a bit hefty. One of the things they did was incorporate the cooling from the VA3. So you've got a direct attached heatsink on the bottom of this, and essentially turns the entire aluminum body into a heatsink. And it has speed holes on the side, so that you can make sure that you're getting a little bit of venting going. See, speed holes. The other thing they did, because some people like to complain about peak power versus sustained, is up the power block. This is an option. You can buy this the normal one if you so desire, but if you truly want a 45 volt 5 amp power supply, they will sell you one, and it certainly does add a kick to it. Playing around with it, this gave me an excuse to actually finally say, hey, I need to buy a sub. So I went with an Edifier TA5 or Edifier T5, because have you ever bought a disappointing Edifier product in your life? I'm assuming you have. No, you won't. Edifier is solid. And gave that a shot. There were some oddities. For instance, normally when you've got a source, you want to plug the left channel into the left RCA jack and the right channel into the right RCA jack. But no, you're switching to mono. Only one of these op amps is alive. So your left channel goes into the right channel on one, and the right channel goes into the right channel on the other, and you're happily going. It's interesting. I mean, there is a bit of a price jump because they are, doing a little bit extra. And this was launched, as they did with the last one, as a Kickstarter. So they should be coming for sale normally as of tomorrow. The 32 volt, the previous power supply that came with the Fosi, is 126. The 48 volt, like they sent me, is 146. So you're looking at, a 15% price increase over top of the previous models. But for that, hey, if you've got XLR inputs and you want balanced, these aren't just, there's a few products that will throw in, oh yeah, we've got XLR support too. It's like, yeah, but it's not good. These are properly balanced. And if you would like to go from a 2.0 to a 2.1, I mean, the price isn't that bad for what you get. This is not going to blow away your $1,000 audiophile equalizer. But as far as as a Class D goes, it's quite nice. Fosi has yet to disappoint me. And
Jeremy,
honestly,
I just want to know what's going on in this picture right here, the back of these two units. I see a lot of cables. I see some insulation.
So I don't use banana plugs. I use bare wire.
Okay.
They do both. And frankly, I should probably solder these in. But yeah, there's 4 speakers on each channel and one place to plug them in. So there is a lot of twisting going on. I do ask a lot from these things.
Yeah, you're definitely changing the load when you put multiple speakers into one speaker output.
Well, no, but they're both got the same different load.
Right.
They're balanced.
I'm just saying, like the rated impedance of the speakers is changed a lot when you put 4 speakers on one output jack. So
you don't say.
Let's see. The performance was a little odd when I put my 4 8-ohm speakers and twisted all the output wires together and then jammed them all into one output jack. What is that? Is that a 2-ohm load now? I don't know exactly how that works.
It's parallel.
It's a big load, is what it is. Oh, and hey, I dropped. It used to be 6 on each channel, but I got rid of 2 of them.
You could take advantage of the fact that they sent you 2 of these things and just run them in stereo mode, and then have one set of speakers being driven by one and one set of speakers being driven by the other. How many sets of speakers do you need?
I mean, at least 4.
Okay.
And a sub.
He needs all the speakers.
And a sub.
Okay.
All of them.
I'm a bachelor. I live alone. There's no one here to complain. Honestly, if you are looking for a 2.0 system or a 2.0 system, it's not an upgrade from the V3. It's the same guts inside. If you do want to add the sub to it, this is worth taking a look at. Other than that, the interiors are the same. It's still the TI TPA 3255. The nice thing is that now instead of being able to swap out 2 op amps, I believe it's 4 that you can, 3 that you can swap out. No, Dark Lord, those aren't 4-ohm speakers. They're 8. Just don't question my mental capacity. You've watched the show. You already know where it is.
Let's move to picks of the week. Josh, please get us started.
Okay, now let's tell me if this is crazy or not. So this 4070 Ti Super that I'm testing, it comes with the 2 pigtails. The 2x8 pin to 12 high. And, it kind of got me to thinking is how well designed are a lot of these, basic boards. Usually they try to do the least amount of money. And so I was kind of wondering, is like, okay, you got 2 of the pins. It's, 300 watts in total. And it's probably not pulling very much from the PCIe slot, which is another 75 watts. So This is a 285 watt card that the max you could put into it probably is around 300 watts, right? So I figured, what if I just get a better cable and I can attach 3x8 pins to this, and then I can do that power limit up another 10%, which takes it from 285 up, above 300, which is more than what the two pigtails can provide. So I'm kind of wondering if I'll get a little bit better power delivery and performance out of this card if I just upgrade the cable. And they're inexpensive, and one of these 16 gauge is a little bit higher quality than the 18 stuff that you often see, and certainly a little bit better than some of those really scary PCB 3-to-1 that I linked to in my Twitter this morning. Yeah, I figured for $22 this would make an interesting test, and it shouldn't blow anything up. It shouldn't, but yeah. I mean, if you want quick over, go ahead.
Did you not check the 15% off box on that? Because you could have paid less.
I could have, but I didn't. Okay. I'm sorry.
All right.
What do you think, Sebastian?
The opinions of Josh Walrath do not necessarily reflect the opinions and recommendations of PC Perspective, its parent company, or any of its advertisers. Please proceed with great caution when buying Amazon special 12-volt high power anything.
See, well, that goes for almost anybody selling a third-party 12-volt high power.
If you just use the NVIDIA one, at least if it melts your card, you have a legitimate warranty complaint. If you use Link Up 16-pin high current power cable from Amazon, your warranty is gone. So,
I don't know.
There's worse in the chat now. Oh God,
this chat one, and that's a quote. Is that a quote from you, Josh? Did you do that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
The him here. I don't know who that is. Look, that supports a 5090 Ti card. That was the one that I was looking for.
5090 Ti compatibility. So
yeah.
I mean, they know something we don't know.
Does. Yep.
Give me things I do not trust for $500, Alec.
For the audio listeners, this is 3/8 to 12-volt high power. Hardboard.
In one delightfully
PCB
gray cable from
made with
somewhere in the world, from the Link Up store.
Yeah, definitely looks very AliExpress to me.
Yeah. Well, the thing that worries me is that no import fees. Wait a second.
It's
literally
direct.
It says adapter for 5090 Ti. It does really say that.
Well, perfect. No, that's the one that V linked of my Twitter.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a totally different one.
Yeah, Josh isn't that crazy. He didn't buy that one.
Oh.
And LinkUp is responsible enough to say that if you're running a 4090, there's a different model you should look at.
Okay, yeah.
Josh, I don't think you're entirely crazy, at least just not for this one thing.
I don't know. Okay. This is the other one, by the way, from his Twitter feed.
This is the one that I really do not trust.
The Jimmier 12-volt high power modular to 3 ATX 8P adapter for 4080 and 5090 Ti.
So when you jimmy something together, well,
and that's from Newegg.
Exactly.
Well, Newegg Marketplace.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Jeremy, your pick.
Just a minor bit of desperation. There's been some stuff going on here. But hey, monitors die. It happens. And when it does, you're like, well, crap, I don't have the $1,200 to get myself a nice giant ultra extra wide display, but I need something. So about 3 or 4 years ago, the Samsung Odyssey G5 series was fairly respectable. Not quite as good as the G7, but they also didn't cost as much. So up here in Canada, there is a place that is selling it for almost 50% off. So if you find yourself desperate for a FreeSync Pro display that's 1440, 27-inch, $250 is not bad for a hold me over. And honestly, you might hold on to it for a bit. It's curved. It's got everything except great HDR. The HDR on it is supposed to be 400, and it's not really. But, if you're desperate, or, someone who just really, really needs to get off that ancient monitor that is just horrific and you can't stand to look at it when you're over there working on their machine, $250 is not bad for Canada. Yeah, I'm sure it's cheaper in the US, but what can I say?
Thank you. Brett, your pick.
I went non-tech and I went sort of car geek on my pick this week. And it harkens back to, well, look at this. I'm wearing a shirt that's close to my heart today. It harkens back to the Scirocco from the late 1980s, where my friend and compatriot, Jason Camisa, who I've known for 20 plus years, I guess, got his car and himself up on Jay Leno's garage for a drive and review of the Scirocco 16 valve. And I think it's an awesome thing. And it keeps the Scirocco, what's left of them, barely in the public's eye, remembering the halcyon days of the 80s and the weird little cars that you could have back then. You can't buy anything like this nowadays. And it's miles and miles of smiles for the 10 or 20 people that still own one of these.
Including
it's a hell of a good time.
Maltavino.
Alan Maltavino is part of the same group of people that myself and Jason Camisa were all in, and still in. Actually, we all know each other quite well. So that's my pick. Go watch that one if you want to throw back to the 80s and an enjoyable ride along with Jay Leno in a late 80s Volkswagen Scirocco.
True to form, I have no pick this week. So I think it's just time to wrap up the show. That's my pick. My pick is going to bed and getting plenty of sleep. So I want to thank you for watching, listening to the podcast in whatever form it finally ends up in. I just said in twice, but not in like a hotel. Like
no, this one N in that word.
Yeah. That's it. I don't have a better outro than that. We will see you guys again next week, or you'll see us because
you'll see us.
I don't get a lot of video comments, which is kind of interesting. Just somebody linking their own YouTube channel.
Be there.
Click on it and then watch.
Be super.